Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Lumastic Live. Happy Friday. If you're new here, which I don't think any of you are, but if you're watching the recording of this, this is the show where me and Joshua, my co-host, fellow founder, fan of Lumastic, a friend of the community, talk about kind of just like what's been going on with the platform as we try to build this out and build this kind of co-working space on the internet. And we got a kind of a fun show for you all this morning. We're like we talked about last week. We're going to delve into a little updates on the whole co-op situation. And I also have a demo to show Joshua for the first time.
I'm so
And
excited.
and also the rest of you. So hopefully that goes well and nothing breaks. But Joshua, how is your week so far? How are you doing?
Yeah.
Um,
So
you have some
I'll
exciting. You have a different location here.
yeah, different location in West Palm Beach in a little house-ish apartment with three friends, and we this is our kind of like secluded spot for the week to just get a break from everything. So I told you this before, but it's been a haven't been to the beach in 4 years, and it feels very weird. But it's been a great week. We just like we're in this little like suburban spot, and we just try to find really secluded beaches with no people.
Nice.
And yeah, and just go. And my friend's a huge like he's really into photography, so it's been super cool seeing like where he wants to go. And so
Nice.
like we went to the beach at like 12 a.m. because he wanted to try astrophotography, and then
Cool.
we were there for like an hour. We were both all exhausted there for like an hour, and he was like, "Man, um, there's so many clouds," and I just saw the frustration and like his kind of like whole creative process, which was really funny.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
um, but yeah, that's just like kind of side tangent. But back to you. How's your week?
No, no,
What are
that's
what are
good.
updates?
Week has been good. The updates, I'm like trying, I always like days blur together. I'm trying to figure out like reflect back to Monday. Um, really, I again, this week has been a delve into development work. The fun, exciting stuff though is we have confirmed our interns for this summer, which is really cool. We are participating in like the UVA IPP program where like the students take basically 2 summer classes and then they get to work for us. Also, hello Faith, good morning, thanks for being here. Um, yeah, and so I put together like a fun intern onboarding presentation for them, and I recorded like a 20-minute video and just like sent it to them on YouTube so that they could just like watch it asynchronously and um
That's so
like
cool.
speed it up if they want. I made this joke that like if I don't talk fast enough for you, you can watch me at 1.5 speed. But yeah, that's been super fun. We're so excited. That's like the stuff about like kind of business and company building I really find awesome because it's like the community stuff, right? It's the making the place feel fun for the people who work here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of like culture management and all that stuff, and I find that really cool. Like those are all the books I devour, is all like the organizational psychology like stuff. And so yeah, it's going to be a fun, I think it's going to be a fun time. My hope really is that it is really fun for them. I've structured this like whole intern program that's like delving back into my curry like curry classes,
Yeah.
and like project based learning and all these things. So I hope it's going to be a good time for them. And I mentioned right at the end of the presentation I gave, I was like, we will not know if you're our first run, so some grace is helpful. But what is more helpful is you tell us how we're bad, and how we
Yeah.
can improve, right? Because yeah, that's the whole point of the company, is to right, help people iterate and work on projects, and this is no different. And so we will know that we're successful if you're happy. So yeah, I'm pumped for it. It's gonna be a good time, and that was basically my weekend. I've been working on last night and this morning in kind of preparation for what I wanted to do today with the demo. Been working on like a set of mock data, like based on personas and creators that we are like designing for. We've been using mock data that's like very testing driven for the database. So like it's not real names of people or like real progress updates or whatever. It's all just like kind of random stuff.
Yeah.
That's helpful in database testing, but because one of our interns is going to be joining the dev team, and like me and Sarah have just been like wanting to kind of see stuff in action more. I'm just trying to get this kind of like mock database set up, and yeah, so that's been my week.
Interesting. So for people who don't have a dev side, like what kind of mock data are you grabbing or looking to get, and like what's that look like for Lumastic?
Ooh, sure. Actually, I think that this might be interesting for me to show.
Oh,
Um,
even better.
uh, yep. All right, and live stream screen transition. Bam. All right, so people should be able to see this now. So, I made this big giant document that is still not even remotely finished. That's just supposed to be kind of a guide for the data we were putting together. So like it's all supposed to be based on real creators, real people that we want to serve. And so all the organizations, users, everything is right now based on Neptune Studios, which is the people that run Minute Physics and Minute Earth, that I talked to like a month ago or a few weeks ago. Yeah, and so this just then outlines like all of the stuff like that exists in this mock database that we're making for them. And so like there's a bunch of sparks that they're part of, like whether or not there are collaborators, like all of the peoples, all the users. And so this is basically so that all of the developers, the engineers, can like either use this document or they could just like read it in kind of like the database format that I put together.
Super
But
good.
yeah, it's just so then everybody is kind of like aware of what is in that mock database and then like how things work together. Yeah, I don't know how interesting this is, but but that's kind of what we're putting together.
No, this is super cool. It's a great update, and I feel like it's really useful to show the visual for people who might like not know what that even the term like mock data looks like or and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then
And,
my
and I will
second,
say it goes in tandem with I have like a bunch of CSV files, like basically Excel spreadsheets, that then get ported in through code. But this is just the guide for like the developers to be able to read through stuff.
that's super cool. My second question for the interns, it's you bring
Yeah.
onboarding two,
3, maybe
three,
4.
really.
Yeah, we were very popular, Joshua.
I mean, that's great. I'm excited. So, what are the different roles? Because I remember in I think it was two Lumastic lives. You talked about bringing in one that's more like really interested in YouTube. So, kind
Mhm.
of putting them on a content side. So, what
Yeah.
are the other three more like dev interested, or can you even say now, or is it like on the down
Yeah,
low
no,
for
no,
now?
it's not on. I don't. It's not on the DL for me, right?
Yeah,
It is more I'm like trying to ride a line, right? Not everyone is like me where I'm like, uh, I flip on a camera and talk to it and like right, I'm
yeah,
very transparent and stuff. And so we're still working on our first relationships with these interns, so I don't want to make anybody feel boxed in. But currently how it's set up is we have one development intern. He's a CS major at UVA, and he like really wants to learn what it's like to be on a dev team. And so in our interview, basically how I structured the interview process was like, I like wore a t-shirt, whatever. They were all so cute. They all like dressed up and stuff. Oh, also, good morning, Chelsea. Faye said, "I'm not surprised you're popular." That's very cute.
very true.
But yeah, so the interview process, I basically like I wore a t-shirt and immediately was like trying to disarm them a little. I'm like the cool thing about the IPP program is you already have the job. Like they get placed. We don't interview like a bunch of candidates. They like rank their top choices and then they get placed like somewhere, and they got placed with us. So I was like this is the most casual interview you'll ever have. You do not have to do the whole market yourself branding thing. Like
Yeah.
we're just going to have a conversation. And really the conversation for me was like, what do you like to do and how can I help you do that here in a way that's productive for like the goals and missions of the company. And so yeah, like Jeffrey applied as like a UI UX person because he was like kind of interested in that, but it was like more obvious that he wanted to just like see what it's like to be on a dev team. Because a lot of like people who are CS majors at UVA never have that experience, and then they go to their first job and they're like, damn, this sucks. So
Yeah.
it's like, right, like that's what you want to do. Hannah also applied as a UI UX person. She's also a CS major, but she wants to start her own YouTube channel. That's why she was really interested in our company. And so I was like, sweet, okay, then let's not do any CS stuff, right? Any of the job description, right? Let's structure your own internship program that's basically like editor and content developer for the marketing stuff. Boom. And then Snigdha, she's in the comm school, and was like applied to do business development, but she was like, I don't know what I really want to do, like in general. So I think exposure to just like a lot of stuff would be interesting for her. And like something she does for her sorority is like social media management, and event planning. So we're like, cool, we've wanted to put on a conference for a long time, like maybe let's try to do that this summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and then the last one, Fiona, I haven't interviewed yet. We actually only asked for 3. They wanted us to take 6 because we were very popular, and a lot of people
Really?
had put us as their first, which I'm honored by. But right, we are only a team of 4, 5, 6 maybe if you count you and Dustin. But so that would be like doubling the team of just interns, right? That we don't have the management
Yeah.
capacity, and then that would just be a shitty internship for everybody. But I'm still gonna interview Fiona because I talked to Chelsea and Sarah, and they were like, let's just see, right? Like, let's see if like it's another thing where maybe she wants to do something like different that's helpful, whatever. Like we could always use more help. She's a media studies major. Yeah, so very interesting. I'm very excited. I just really hope it goes well. I'm trying to write up as much as I possibly can, to like make sure that they can like. So something I sent them in their onboarding email was like, it really sucks when the first 4 weeks of your internship are figuring out what you're going to do in the internship, right? And so let's try to move past that quickly. That's why I sent them the onboarding stuff, like way before. I gave them a bunch of homework to like set up your tools and all that stuff, so we can kind of make a project plan for your summer like within the first couple days and like get running. But that's also why I'm trying to do all these write-ups, is so specifically Jeffrey has like a good time on the development team, because getting on board with a code base that also he's never worked in the stack before, so he's never worked with the technologies that we use. And so yeah, it can be really hard and frustrating, and so we're just trying to mitigate that as much as possible so that they all have a great time.
That's all. I think, yeah, actually speaking, I can kind of tie in some things from Ripple and our experience. So we brought in ambassadors, and I definitely think that's
Cool.
one thing that so ambassadors are interviewing doctors. So we bring in a lot of pre-med students or pre-dental students because they actually have a lot of interest in interviewing doctors,
Mm,
physicians themselves. And so we're finding this actually to be really unique opportunity because they're getting a lot of value out of it. And when I kind of go back and watch the videos when I'm editing, it like makes me really happy to see that they're kind of like networking after asking questions for
yeah.
themselves and like getting value for themselves. And so that's definitely one thing I think that we should have emphasized more initially, like how much you can do, how much you can really take this experience and make it for you. Like don't
Yep.
don't view it as like, oh, I'm doing this for Ripple. Like we're here, we have one mission, but our mission is also centered to help you. And so like making that really transparent is really good. And then also I feel like one thing that we're learning on the process is just checking in frequently,
Hmm.
figuring out where they might feel. Because like especially in the nice thing about being virtual is that you can do a lot of work really fast. Staying in their location is pretty free. But if
Yep.
you're not like checking in with people, it can be like you don't know what they're thinking. And so they could be like having the worst week, but having like those
Exactly.
basic check-ins to just be like, hey, aside from Lumastic, aside from Ripple, like how are you doing? Is this good? Like, can we support any other way? Making sure that they don't feel like they're just like dump pretty much the office equivalent of dumping a bunch of papers in front of their face and then being like, I'm out. Like it's
Yeah.
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 So
exactly.
yeah,
And one of the things I like put in the presentation, because like right, the whole thing here is like the it's very project centered, right? Where like that's the point of the company and blah blah blah. But what I told them to do when they're coming up with like when we're coming up with this project plan is like it's helpful to have like an inciting question, like something that you're trying to answer by the end of 8 weeks. And I find it most helpful when that question is like something about you, right? Like, what do you want to learn about yourself? And then, like, how can we structure an 8 week program where you get to learn that thing, right? Through your work, right? And so, like, Snigta is like the example that I find most relevant and interesting is like she's really like trying to explore even what she would remotely want to do after she leaves college, right? And is in like the comm school management consulting ring, right? And so like figuring having a question of like I want to figure out what I like to do in terms of work, right? And like, oh, cool. Let's like expose you to a bunch of stuff over the course of this 8 week program and like help you discover that question, right? Hannah, it's like I like think I want to be a YouTuber, right? Like, cool. Then let's like make some videos and like do a content strategy plan and like treat you like you're running a YouTube business so that you can see if this is actually something that you want to do, right? It's a good
yeah.
testing ground. It's a good forcing function. Um, yeah. So I'm just like I'm pumped for them. I really am just trying to structure some sort of internship program that I wish my internships were like.
That's the best way to do it, honestly. Like it's the best way to go back and think of, like what your experiences were like at
Yeah.
Smithsonian or stuff like that, and to
Yeah,
figure out.
exactly.
So
What might have faltered and what could be better.
yeah, exactly.
More like the management consulting Ponzi scheme. Love that, Faith. Come for Deloitte. Come for my friend Alex Singh too texted me last week because he works at Deloitte but has been
Yeah.
running that startup Mist that was in our class for Lighthouse, and he's going full time starting this summer. So
On Mist.
like yeah. So shout out to
Yeah.
Alex. Super amazing. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. It's always fun when you like you get to see because Alex has been working on Mist since like his second year of college, and so like to see this like trajectory as they've kind of like bootstrapped and figured shit out and all that stuff. They are like chef's kiss, like just like a great north star for kind of people to follow, especially in healthcare because that is a grueling slog.
Yeah. Yeah.
As Joshua knows.
I'm about to get really familiar with.
Cool.
Um,
Joshua, you want to pivot conversation here? You want
Yes,
to,
yeah,
you,
pivot conversation. So I want to kind of first start off with, so we're gonna, I guess, pivot to platform co-ops, but before diving really into like your thoughts behind it,
yeah.
give us kind of a rundown because you wrote 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
the Lumastic blog on it, and then last week when we kind of circled back slightly in the Lumastic live, you were like, "Oh, my thoughts have kind of changed about it." So the way I really wanted to go about this is first have you explain platform co-ops to people who like have no clue what it is, and then kind of go into your thought process. So first being on the blog you wrote 2 weeks ago, and then
Hmm.
moving to as you kind of had more time to think about it, how your thoughts changed, and then we can go into platform demo after that.
Nice. Cool, dude. Yeah, here, let me switch screens again here to show people some stuff. So, I got introduced to platform cooperativism through the Rework podcast, which is a podcast by the company Basecamp. They also make project management software, which is kind of funny. But they are awesome. I love them so much. They also run Hey, which is that email client. Or I guess it's actually a whole email service. But yeah, blah, blah, blah. They do just like a ton. They're like an entirely bootstrapped company. Well, that's not true. They actually had $1 million investment from Jeff Bezos back in like 2009.
Mhm.
But like Jeff Bezos is not like part of the company anymore or anything. Like, but just very interesting. Yeah, and so they have like a great podcast on like they call it like the better way to work and run your business, and it's about like the kind of bootstrap methodology of starting a startup, and like they obviously did an episode on like co-ops, and kind of like the future of like how we structure stuff on the internet. So that's how I got interested into it, and I highly recommend going and listening to that episode because it will explain this stuff probably better than I can right now. Okay, but the person that they interviewed as part of that episode worked for this thing, the Platform Cooperative Consortium, which was started by this like German sociologist researcher back in 2016, I think. And basically they're out to promote platform co-ops. And to explain the whole platform cooperativism thing, it's like, if you think about co-ops, you might like not really know what that is, but really a third of Americans are members of co-ops. Like credit unions are co-ops. REI is like the North Star of co-op businesses. And basically all they are companies that are structured where they are member owned, not shareholder owned. So like a lot more people are like owners and operators of the business. King Arthur Flour is a co-op. They're like a worker-owned co-op. Excuse me. And the big like advantage, the big cool thing about businesses that are co-ops instead of like the traditional corporation is just that they're usually more like service and community oriented. So like if you can imagine, rather than a bunch of rich people owning your company, what would happen if like a bunch of people that benefited from the company owned the company? You end up with like a just like a cooler place to work, but also like a more conscious, both socially and economically, business, because like the people who actually care about the company like doing well own the company rather than like just thinking about it as a vessel to make money. Yeah, I don't know if I'm explaining that super well, but this is also like our OG way of doing business. Like the first businesses that like when like Adam Smith like came up with capitalism, like this was it. It was like, hey, imagine if like, I mean, not this exactly, but like imagine if in our communities we could have like, oh hello, we could have like economic models that allow for distributed ownership, and like for people to kind of build wealth in a more stable and sustainable way. So did I do a good job enough on,
Yeah.
on explaining this, Joshua?
Yeah, no, I think that the only thing I would add is maybe explain like I mean an example of like as a member. Let's say I'm a member of Lumastic. What would that look like for me owning it versus like a company that's like, just kind of explain a case what it means for a member to own kind of a part of the company.
Yeah, that's great. So, in the traditional model of how businesses are owned, there's like, right, the small group of like investors that put in like a butt ton of money and own like between it's between like 2 and 10% of the company. And then what happens is like that person or that group, that investment group, owns a big stake and then governs the company, right? Either sits on the board to make decisions, whatever, in ways that are in their financial interest. When like you, Joshua, would own Lumastic, like own part of the company through like membership dues, which is exactly how REI works. You then get to be a steward of the company along with every other member of Lumastic. So like here we can look at the REI governance thing. So like I think it's every 3 years, spring of 2022, whatever. Like the members of REI, which are literally people that pay $20 a year, get to vote on like members of the governing board, the governing committee. And so like that would be, you get to vote whether or not you want to re-up me as like CEO, right? It's like elections, but it's not like really elections because there's usually like an election committee that goes and sources candidates and they're approved by the membership. But yeah, it's like literally just if you imagine thinking about companies not as companies but as governments, that's like how these work. And so then you, Joshua, have a lot more say in like the lifetime decisions of Lumastic, which like makes sense, right? Like, we're building a space in which you like work, like you run your business. And so just like if that was like your physical office space, whatever, like you want a say, right? Like you don't want us to make some wackadoo decisions that like leaves you in the lurch or whatever.
Yeah.
And we want you to be able to like have that say, right? That's the whole idea of feedback loops in startups. It's just that like we have gone away from this model of like humans who benefit from these like corporations and organizations actually having a say in ownership. This is like a lot of tie-ins with like the rise of unions and like the 18th century or 19th century and like all that jazz. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question? I'm like
Yeah.
really not explaining this well. It's like
No, no,
quite
no.
cold in my office. I'm like shivering.
No, it doesn't. I think it's a great example. It's like to kind of, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing that I kind of got from it is like, to put it simply, rather than having like your board of members that are run by like a select 10 that kind of make those decisions, it's your whole community that's making those kind of big decisions.
Yeah,
Or
except they don't, because that would get crazy, right? Like if
yeah,
everyone was making decisions all the time, like that'd get wild. That's like designed by committee. How this actually works is you elect. It's a representation. It's a republic. It's not a like a
gotcha.
full democracy, right? Or a strict democracy, pure democracy. Yeah, so if that makes sense, like you elect people who then go and make decisions, but like every so often based on the bylaws. I think yeah, in REI's bylaws, I think it's every 3 years. You re-up
Gotcha.
the people, or they've gone and sourced new candidates or whatever it is. Yo, oh my god, Chelsea just said, oh my god, I just tweeted at Rework Podcast and they retweeted us. Let's
Oh,
go.
no way.
Nice, Chelsea. Yeah,
Awesome.
so does that make sense? It's just like I want to talk about like why I think that this is important and interesting.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the minutia of like platform cooperatives in like detail work is like not actually the thing that's interesting, right? That's the stuff that I have to like delve into and then bring to the team, and then we have to like decide what of all these things that we're going to do and like write up the bylaws and all that stuff. Like that is not the part that I think people will find very interesting. I think the thing that I and people find interesting is that like imagine if Twitter was owned by people who use Twitter, right? Imagine if like these spaces in which we like live and work on the internet, instead of being owned by like Mark Zuckerberg, right? Like and like the a bajillion investors who have like their own financial interests, whatever. Like if Facebook was owned by its users, and imagine then like the ethical implications of that, right? Like you would hold Facebook to a much higher standard in terms of data privacy, in terms of
Yeah.
like what how they make money, and like what they do in terms of hate speech and all these things. Like we'd hold these companies to a higher, like how we hold our government, right? And it's like that switch of just thinking about how we build infrastructure on the internet, and how this can kind of enable that from a legal and financial perspective. I think that's the thing that's a game changer. Yeah, but
So
that's my big takeaway.
So then I'm curious, like the last week when you were saying like you kind of switched, like you put out the blog post and then
Yeah,
you kind of like last week mentioned, I don't think went into detail, but like you have more thoughts on it.
yeah.
Um, what are some of those thoughts in regards to platform co-ops?
My more thoughts is that I really want to do it.
Oh, okay.
I think that, and like we had like a big team meeting where I brought up Chelsea here in the chat, our head of marketing, whatever. She's the one that's most skeptical, I would say. So the one we're gonna try to convince, but I just think that it's like, especially for our business, makes so much sense. Like a lot of co-working spaces are not operated this way, right? Even though they should be, right? Like a bunch of
Yeah.
people have gone together to like go in on office space together, because that's like the reason that co-ops exist. Hang on, I'm gonna like go back to the REI like who we are story, because in here, if you go to this, the reason REI started is like a bunch of mountain climbers like wanted cheaper gear, And so like the way they could do that is by economies of scale and buying in bulk from suppliers rather than from retail chains. And so they just started their own retail chain where like members of the co-op buy in, right? And then they get the discounts of like all this retail gear. It's so awesome. And like
Yeah.
if you then think about a co-working space, right? That's people cooperatively coming in to say like, "Oh, I can't afford a whole office." Right? But I could afford a desk in an office. So let me find 200 other people that need a desk in an office and let's all pay for the office space together. Right?
Yeah.
It's like people then get this like economic benefit where like the goods they use are cheaper because they're not the organization that's out to provide the service is not out to make money, it's out to provide a value to the community. Yeah, and so like in terms of like Lumastic, like we are still like a for-profit company, right? It's just that when we're asking you to pay for a membership, right? Which is bizarre that we already called this a membership, right? It wasn't like a pay for a license, whatever. It's like we called it a membership from the get-go. And like now that membership actually like means something and something that yeah. This is the sorry. I gotta stop looking at the chat because it derails me. But um, uh, yeah, it's like if your membership actually meant that you were a member of the Lumastic community, and then the like the profits, the services, whatever, you had a say in how they were used. Like that just sounds like an awesome fucking thing to build. And like to kind of show people that this really is a viable way of kind of fixing the internet in a way.
Yeah.
And even to tie back into like the collaboration economy, the thing that I've like am trying to coin and promote a little, uh, that that economic system that we're moving into, that we've moved into, it's just that we're in the early days, like we now can kind of like collaborate but also cooperate, right, in like at like a scale that's unheard of, right? Like Blue Diamond Almonds is a cooperative of like California like almond growers, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it came together because it was like, hey, if we all like collected our things together, we'll make more money, right? Now imagine if all those people didn't have to live in California, right? Like it's just like it's bizarre and it's just so cool, and it literally makes like the internet run in a more democratic way, which I feel like makes it run more justly. Yeah, and I think that that's awesome. I want to like point out what Chelsea said in the chat of I don't want us to get yeeted off our own island. Chelsea, I agree with you, right? Like that would suck, but I explained I think I explained this to you, but I explained it to Faith recently too. I was like, if people want to yeet me off the island, right? If the people that we serve are like Drew sucks, right? Like he's bad at this, right? I'd want them to yeet me off the island, right? Because I'm not serving the
Yeah.
mission in the way that our people who we want to be served want us to be, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's important.
I was just gonna ask a little bit more like what when people kind of argue against platform co-ops, it might be interesting, Chelsea, to type more in the chat to hear more of your perspective because I'm
Yeah,
curious what the other side of the because we talked about it in I feel like every single Lumastic Live, I'm not gonna lie, has some tint or like hint of like democratizing design process. And
yeah,
so like the platform co-ops do that. And like I think it's a good point you made that if you're a bad fit and people want to yeet you off the island,
yeah.
like it goes into again. I keep on saying I feel like I said it goes into the past Lumastic Live a million times during the live. But there was one where we talked about like how important that is that they have a say and not everyone's like the fit to do it. And also as someone who's invested in the mission of Lumastic Live, even if
Mhm.
someone like a competitor does it and does it successfully, that's like amazing. Like you get a little excited just by the fact that they solve the problem. And
Yeah,
so it does kind of go
exactly.
into that same like
Mentality.
idea and mentality that if someone wants to eat you off the island and they think like that someone else could solve the problem better, It should. It just sucks for you, but like for everyone else, like they're vibing, they get the right.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the difference between being finite and infinite minded. And also it
yeah,
like I feel like helps. I feel like I am Chelsea said like I agree it's just terrifying, and I agree with that, right? Like Lumastic is like my child.
yeah,
Like it is probably one of the things I care about most in the world. Well, it's definitely one of those. I was going to say it is the most. So that's like but yeah, like I care a lot. Like this is extremely important to me, but the thing I care about, and like Keith and I talked about from the get-go, is like we care most that we solve the problem, right? That the problem is solved, right?
yeah.
And so that's what's helped us like not really care about competitors in the same way that other people have. Like here, I'll even show you one um in that rework podcast. Well, actually they did like an update episode, and this company Hilo was like interviewed, and like they're very Lumasticy. It's like they call it social coordination for a thriving planet. They're like focused on like ecological projects and communities, but like they are kind of a project community project manager sort of thing. They're entirely it's free, open source, and they call it stewarded by this like Terran collective, which is just like a collective of developers. But yeah, they are a co-op. So you like pay for a membership, and then they like run the community. Like yeah, become a founding stakeholder today, right? Yeah, and it's like I don't look at this and I'm like, oh my god, like we have to
Yeah.
destroy these people, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, cool, like they're doing a thing that like is interesting, valuable, and also we can learn from, right? Like,
Yeah.
and hopefully they can learn from us, right? Like, it's like the I think I talked about this in like last Lumastic Live. That has to be like like a thing we cut to super cut at some point. But yeah, it's the difference between like being trying to be a unicorn and trying to be a zebra, right? Did I talk about that last week?
I I think I've heard you say the expression, but I don't know. Like, wait,
Yeah.
elaborate a little bit more. Just
Yeah, sure. So like right now the entire like startup ecosystem is designed to find unicorns, right? These like super like highly valuable rare companies that just like go to hundreds of billions of dollars in valuations, the Twitters, Instagrams, Facebooks, YouTubes of the world. Like every investor is like throwing out money, essentially gambling, that one day one of these might be a unicorn, right? That they'll gain back 100x their money of like 100 companies by just one, by getting one that's a unicorn. Um, and unicorn companies are like carnivorous essentially, like they're out to dominate the competition, like become monopolies, like all this stuff. The other classification of startup that I've is like kind of it's not popular at all, but it's like I feel growing and I'm gonna start championing is the idea of like promoting being a zebra, right? Being a kind of company that's like out for is a pack animal, right? Is highly collaborative and communal. It's not out to dominate. It's out to like just like do something well for its community. It's both black and white, so it's for profit and also for their communities and stakeholders. What's another thing? They're like herbivores or whatever, so they're out to be like highly sustainable. Yeah, all this stuff, and I
this is a
feel
great
like
analogy.
yeah, it's an amazing analogy, and I think that we need to promote being zebras, right? And I want to be a zebra, right? Like I want to live in a world where like Hilo and Lumastic can like cooperate, right?
Yeah.
And another thing this ties into, which is something I'm going to write a blog post about probably next week, is there is a new worldwide developer standard, web standard, that's being approved right now for like how social companies can build APIs and kind of databases, like share data between platforms. So like you, Joshua, could like post imagine a world where you're posting to like um, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, like once. And it's not because like you have a service that goes and posts to all of those companies individually. It's actually because you have like an app or service that like you broadcast the data to, and then those companies just collect, like
Yeah.
basically serve in your posts. So you can actually live in like different social spaces on the internet, like simultaneously, like we do in real life, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't have to segment off. Like you're not walking into a different room essentially when you walk into YouTube than when you walk into Twitter. It's like you are a social uh, uh, actor in this like big place that is the social internet, and then there are just spaces that you go and your data follows you,
Yeah.
and that
I
you
would
own it. It's so interesting.
I would even, that's a really interesting point because I think even outside of like kind of the social media creator realm, that idea of like kind of like the open API will help people's missions and people who are running companies or projects that want to like accomplish a certain mission do it
Yeah.
faster. Best example I have that comes to mind is Arena Labs. We partner with Whoop, and so Whoop is a biometric band for athletes, right? But it's one.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that partnership, like the platform that we put give to physicians, we're looking at this data for physicians. Whoop does it for athletes, but Arena Labs is a separate company that's looking to do that, right?
Yeah.
But what would make it even better is if like all these other biometric companies like Aura Ring, all these things, we could collaborate with them so that the mission would actually go by faster with more collaboration. It could be the one platform for physicians, but we're tapping
Yeah.
into like all these other companies and collaborating because like not everyone wants to wear Whoop. Some people might want to wear the Aura Ring instead. Some people might want to
Exactly.
wear a Fitbit. Some people might want to wear like all these other things. But it actually does, through collaboration, get the mission out faster, right? It doesn't like limit you as much. It gives you more, opens more opportunities to accomplish the thing you want to accomplish. In this sense, it's like posting, making the job easier for one person. But like even in health field, like any other field, honestly,
Yeah.
like just having that collaboration could do like a lot of great. And I just, yeah, it's actually crazy to think about like how much that could change everything in
Exactly.
a lot of ways.
Exactly. And like I the reason we got here, right, is because we've been in this like cultural cycle since like kind of the 60s of like let's build companies to be market dominant monopolies. And that's like been a thing of capitalism for a long time. It's just that like the scale and like access to capital to make that happen is like been unforeseen kind of in the last 70 years. And we are obviously seeing all of the after effects with like just like the shit hole that we're in both politically and like in terms of wealth inequality and like all these things. And I just feel like if we can create structures and kind of like if like Lumastic in some small way, like really like we are building workplace collaboration software, but like if in some small way we can show a path forward for how to do that in a way that's like socially responsible but also like economically like lucrative and sustainable, like I feel like we have to do that in some way, right? Like
Yeah.
for like the good of the future of the world, we need to show that like, and that's part of the reason that I'm trying to be like super vocal as we go through this process of like how we're thinking about it, is so that either we can inspire or inform or whatever like the next class, right? Because another another blog post I want to write sometime this week is basically how accelerator programs are like raise money prep school, and how there is a very small, how they're basically not designed for founders at all, and like they are a very they teach a very small window of like how to start a business, because of all of the financial incentives that those accelerator programs have. And so I just like I imagine what would happen if like we really could teach and train people to like choose a path that works best for them, and also like promote this like ooh gross zebra lifestyle business mentality thing, right? Like
Yeah.
we are being brainwashed to believe that we need to all be creating monopolies and be monopoly men, when in reality we could all live like super happy, productive, like emotionally satisfying lives, just building companies that like, right, being independent entrepreneurs, which is like the thing that we are promoting as like the future of the fucking economy, right? And so like let's just train people up on that, on how like awesome that can be.
Yeah.
um yeah, because like in reality, you go and talk to any person who's like a billionaire and they like couldn't give, like at some point you like literally don't give a shit about like money, right? And like amassing wealth is like then becomes something gross. And like literally there's tons of like documentaries and stuff that like go through how people feel when they get this like mass amount of wealth and money. And like literally that should not be the goal, right? It's like there's that whole like journal that put out that article about how like past $90,000 a person, like you literally don't, it makes you no more happy, because literally the thing is to like meet basic needs and provide some sense of like financial security, and then after that it's just like it's like detracting from your life.
Yeah.
And so rather than like making that the goal for everyone, or rather than making the opposite the goal for everyone, the amassing wealth, right? Like let's go for the former. Like how do you become a productive, like valuable member of your community and society? Because that's the thing that makes you happy. Like is the relationship building throughout your life and like feeling like you're part of something. And so like essentially scamming like entrepreneurs and like artists and all these people to think any differently is just like, I feel like morally reprehensible. um
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with this, but that's
No,
my thoughts.
I gotta respond to that because it's so funny you brought that up because literally 3 days ago, my friend Greg and Parsa, there's the shout out Greg and Parsa. They're my friends who are here with me. They're
Shout
out
out,
getting
shout
they're out getting coffee right now. But
out.
we went to Palm Beach because we were curious like what it looks like. So we're in West Palm Beach. Palm Beach apparently is like the richest area in Florida. So we're like, oh,
Mm,
let's just like go walk through. And so we are walking through and just like all the houses and like that like I swear that we were like looking like the worst the quote unquote worst car was a BMW in that neighborhood. And
mm,
we were just like we were actually talking about this. We are like, there's what they probably ride cloud nine for like the first 3 months of getting the money, but like really what really matters is like, and what's really cool and provides you that value is like that community, like that, like it just we literally said the exact same thing you said. Like you just need a base level income to not worry about like the basic financial needs like
exactly.
food,
Not
um
worry about
housing.
money. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. To not worry about money. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's all about kind of like really opportunities in what you said. So like for artists, right? It's like they a lot of times like they go to get money to like get the next best thing. So like whether it's a newer
Mm,
camera to make more like take cooler shots, like it's the
yeah.
opportunities, or like do this new event or coordinate this new thing, or like get this, like those are the moments that like you capture that bring a lot of happiness and the value.
Yeah.
Those it's the opportunities and working with the community that brings the value. It's not the like the the money
The
at the end of
stuff.
the day. Yeah, it's just money.
Yeah.
Money's the thing that's associated to get those opportunities.
Yeah.
um and
And
so
so
yeah.
then if like if our entire like system of how we think about promoting people to have those opportunities switches, right? Where it's like all of a sudden like that's the default. And because like that's what the internet does, right? Is like I don't have to shell out $120,000 to go to film school, right? Or I don't even have to like shell out like $1 million to make a movie, right? Like all of a sudden the barrier to entry in terms of like monetary cost for opportunities to do cool stuff is way lower. Um, then like that's no longer, we don't need that threshold anymore. And so what can we do instead of that, right? Which is just like do more cool stuff, like with less need for the financial and like um mass financial incentive, right? Like
Yeah.
um yeah, and I hope like I feel like I probably live in a whole internet bubble. I mean, I definitely do. Everyone does, but like and specifically like I've been like a part of like the minimalism movement and all these things like since the beginning of high school, and like I've just been like ingrained kind of in that the tiny house movement, all these things. And I feel like what those things show in their growing popularity and stuff is just that people are catching on to this like new way forward. I also think it's catching on because there is such extreme wealth inequality, and so there's a lot of then marketing of like, oh, you don't need money, right? Which is like, I think that's a yike, because I think really the conversation to be had is like, hey, you don't need that much money, right? And these people do need more money. And if we all were just like in this like window of financial security and a more equitable place, then like we'd all be happier. I feel like that is the messaging I attach myself to, not the like live in squalor and you'll be happy, because poor people have to do that, and it's extremely stressful and tough. So like I don't think we should be promoting that stuff. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, yeah. But
um
so yeah, it's 9:50 now. I'm just in the back of my head. I was like, do you think we have enough time for a platform demo?
yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
It won't
let's
be
do it
too
now.
long.
Okay,
Here we go, Joshua. Can you see
let's
this all right?
go. Yeah, it's a bit blurry on my screen, but I think I can make it out.
Okay. Um maybe I can make it bigger here. Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, maybe when you're like moving your mouse, just say what the text says, like kind
Okay,
of as
okay,
it's
it's
doing the
still a little
walk.
blurry. No
Yeah,
worries.
just a little. Like I can make it out, but if I look like I'm squinting, like I apologize.
No worries. Okay, so um really exciting stuff. So we've been working through these like iterations on like, okay, how do we really like delve into co-working space on the internet, a place where like people can work on projects together as like a team or as an individual, whatever, but still be connected to everyone else. So originally, right, currently on the platform, if you've been there in a while, right, the homepage is like your feed, right, of all the people working on
Yeah.
projects. But we were like, actually, that doesn't make sense if like this is my workplace, right? When I come down and get to work, the thing I want to do is like go to my desk.
Yeah.
And so that's like the first page you come to, and here you can like jot down notes. If I had any sparks on this on this demo site yet, then you can see some here. I can like make one here. Blah, blah,
Cool.
blah, blah. Yay. Okay. So yeah, and then it shows up here. And then down here is like the recap of like your project. So this is the updates and stuff from stuff that you're specifically working on. Super exciting. We're working on this thing called pins, which is like you could pin cards directly to your desk, so that if you have a running task list or whatever, you want to keep some sort of file or note for later, you can do that there. Yeah, very exciting. Cool. Moving on a little from any questions on the desk, Joshua.
No, I think this makes complete sense. I mean, in the past weeks you talked about like this feature, so it's just really cool to see it
To
like
see it.
live. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna press 2 on my keyboard, because something that we've like doubled down on, right, is like keeping you on the keyboard. So rather than like having to go over here and click through to get to these main sections, I can literally just like roll my finger on the number pad and go to
Oh,
different ones. It's very exciting. Cool. So this one's the hub. So if I like make a post here, yay! Yeah, you see it like this is like of all of the, again, if there were more sparks here or like things that people were working on, then we could see this better. But right, it's just the feed that you see now. So
yeah.
recommendations panel is over here, so you can see like the other people on the platform. Neptune Studios is like the organization that Alex, the person I'm logged into, is a part of, right? They're the people that make Minute Physics and Minute Earth. So I could go through and follow these organizations. Yay! Super
That's
fun.
so cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Cool. And so we're moving on. Oh, and you could filter. So I could, so because I'm me, I am part of Neptune, and then I could like filter out my community. So if I like turned these on or off, then you'd filter the posts. Very exciting stuff. Next up, my Sparks. Right, this is a very traditional page. um, I don't currently, in the one I'm running, have like archives set up, but we're really trying to focus on like, hey, the ones that you're actively working on and the ones that have faded to the background, right? And so like here are the projects that I'm like actively delving into on my day to day. And then if I wanted to archive them, they would show up here, and so they just show up below. They're not deleted, which is like kind of how the system works today. They just
Yeah.
like are not up in my forefront. Yeah, I can make a new Spark, whatever. Here, I'm also going to show our new like search engine here. Sarah worked for so long on this, so I'm
Cool.
actually going to press / on my keyboard, and it brings up Spotlight. Like literally, we've like taken the name directly from Mac and stuff. And so I could filter by collectives, and then I could say like Neptune, right? And now it's showing me like Neptune Studios. I could like delete
Ah,
these away, and let's say like what did I call this Spark FD? Yeah, FDSAF.
yeah.
So I could like then click in and go to that Spark. You can see the Spark page has been updated a little to show like just to make things a little more cleaner. So it's showing me the collective that this is a part of, which is me, right? It's a personal Spark. And then the title.
Cool,
If I
cool.
wanted to add collaborators and stuff, I can go to the collaborators pane. If I wanted to see all of the boards or add a new board, I could do that here. If I wanted to change the settings, I can do that here without opening that big old dialog. Yeah, and then making a new post and new board's really easy from here. It's really, really exciting. I'm loving the
So cool.
workflow here. Then when we come into boards, this is the thing we haven't
I'm
like
loving the shortcut.
fully. What's up?
I said I'm loving the keyboard shortcuts, like the idea of it. Like I literally remembering it, I'm jotting it down in my head right now. Like look, I'm like the keyboard.
Yeah, yeah, and like you can see that whenever you bring something up, we tell you. We're trying to teach you along the way to like kind of become that power user. Which again,
Yeah.
just like really cool. Yeah, so the boards. Oh, yikety yike. Um, that's the live demo, baby. The board system is like still like the janky old one. It just looks a little cleaner. We're gonna work on this probably in the next sprint cycle. Just because we want to make something that's like nice and clean and at parity with what's currently on the website, just with new UI framework. Cool. So if I go back here, you see we've added this back button because something that was like a problem before is like people would nest
Yeah.
in and then like not be able to go back out. And so we've added that in. Yeah, notifications is like the same exact page, but you could filter. Um, yeah, and then
So cool.
last page here is going to be captures. This is again something we're still working on because it's a work in progress, but this will show all of the cards that are kind of unsorted. So that you can just like jot stuff down and like save it for later, but you don't have to make it into its own Spark yet, right? You can like workshop ideas before you delve in. Cool. Um, Last little stuff
So
up
cool.
is profile section. So you can see the design language is like really consistent throughout. It's just showing you like where you are and then kind of these horizontal and vertical lists of stuff. But so I'm logged in as Alex Reich, who is the one of the co-founders of Neptune Studios, which runs Minute Earth and stuff. You can see like we're going to show some current time. We're going to show when they joined or created their account, and then pronouns, which Sarah wrote a like really great article about how developers
I
can put
read it.
pronouns in their apps, and I want to shout out that article and have people go read that because really there was no content on the internet to help us solve that problem, so we tried to make it. Cool. And then you can see the collectives that Alex is a part of. So he's a part of Neptune Studios. His little bio, bada bing, bada boom. It's really just so exciting. The last thing I want to show off here is the account settings. So the current settings page looked like garbage, like with all of the tabs. And so now we've just kind of like got this nice, this nice little drop down system so that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can kind of sort through like your settings and stuff a little bit more easy. And a current bad workflow with the website is once you're on the settings page, you can't like go back anywhere because the sidebar isn't there and blah, blah, blah. So again, we've added
Mm.
this back button that just takes you, oh, so that's a bad link, but it will take you just right back to your profile. Boom. That's our little demo. I think I hit on everything. There's probably some stuff I forgot, but
Yeah.
um,
I was just curious. I saw a files page. I was curious, like,
Yeah.
or I think I saw file. What
Yeah,
is
that's
that?
here.
I'm curious.
I think it's four. Yeah. So we are partnering. Knock on wood that this all works out well, but we're partnering with again, being a zebra, we're partnering with a company called Starchive, who is like runs digital asset management software for like musicians and stuff. They've made like a really fucking awesome product, and we're gonna hopefully be using their API to actually run an entire file system in Lumastic, so we could like replace
So
Google
cool.
Drive for creators, and then like what's really cool about that is like Google Drive, Dropbox, all these things are set up in folder structures. So like you have to know where the file is to get to the file. Um, and they have like good search and stuff, but in terms of just like hierarchy of how you've organized stuff, like a file can't be in like two places at once. It can't be like linked to two projects or in two folders. You'd have to copy the file and stuff. With a digital asset management software like Starchive, what their system allows us to do is actually say like, hey, you use this same thumbnail template for every single Spark, right? You like in your Spark template, you like always put the thumbnail template in there, so then the designers can work off of it. So we're gonna upload that thumbnail template once, and then you could link it onto a card anywhere. So really, it's that the card is a pointer essentially to the file rather than having the file uploaded in all of those different
Mm,
places. So in terms of storage cost, organization, all that stuff, it just like makes the whole system for like organizing your project as like a creative professional way better. It's awesome, and so I'm really excited for that partnership to like cross fingers, knock on wood, work out and happen, because I'm pumped for us to just be able to get off of Google Drive and all these things.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's really cool. That's why this is grayed out. Is like when we launch it up, we won't have this yet, but it's just so people know that like that's something that's coming. So we're gonna make this files page essentially just like a, hey, this is how this is gonna work. This is a coming feature, and also kind of like promote Starchive in general, because that's what's cool too. Is like your Lumastic account would be linked to a Starchive account. So if you wanted to like go use their digital asset management stuff to like edit stuff, upload things, whatever, cool. And then that will just be reflected here. And then you can start attaching stuff to your boards and Sparks and all that jazz. Does this make sense? Like, am I making any sense right now?
I'm like so excited I'm literally thinking through like case uses of how I'd use this. And so it's just like really cool to see the final product. And that's really interesting. Yeah, I'm curious also how the partnership works out, and I'm sure they'll have more updates in the weeks to come on that with Starchive. And so that's super cool.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So that's our little like product demo. And that puts us at 10 a.m. Look at this. Another
Right on the
Lumastic
dot.
live right on the
Right on
dot.
the dot.
Accomplished. Chelsea said, yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
as we close out here, thank you all for joining us this morning. I hope that we could start your day off with a little inspiration, a little knowledge, a little new thing to expose you to. And yeah, like always, if you're working on something and you want to either promote it or talk about something that we talked about in the show, leave a comment down below. You can tweet at me at It's Just Ruit on Twitter, or at This Is Lumastic if you want to like talk to the rest of the team. Joshua is, what is it, Joshua? It's Joshua Blair underscore
Joshua
or
Joshua underscore Blair underscore.
Joshua underscore Blair underscore. Yeah, get in touch with us. We'd love to like know what you're working on. Also, if you're interested in promoting the show, yeah, you can do that. Subscribe down below, all that jazz. Joshua, anything else? Any final thoughts?
No, I thought this was just, well, one, I thought the platform co-op conversation was really good today. I thought it was like,
Yeah,
it's just really cool. And if people are out there watching this and have more thoughts, please engage on Twitter or even in the comment section about that. Because I think it's just
yeah.
like super cool to bring in more people to have these conversations, get thoughts, get case studies, get all these different things. And so, yeah, those would be my final thoughts for today.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because that's the only way that we're gonna get this. we're also going to learn how to do it, but also like promote it in general for more people is like through the conversations of us figuring it all out. So if you've got like questions, thoughts, whatever, like let's have that conversation. I think that's like super vitally important. Awesome. Chelsea put all of our handles in the chat. So if you're watching the rewatch, just open up the live chat replay and you'll see that. But awesome. Joshua, let's hop on our marketing meeting. Let's enjoy the rest of this weekend. And yeah, enjoy West Palm Beach. Everyone at home listening, I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. And we will see you next Friday at 9 a.m. for another Lumastic Live.
Let's go.